Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube astrological segment, I'm going to be talking about how I believe the zodiac sign Cancer can be manipulated. And yes, this does apply and pertain to the sun, moon, and ascendant. Well, anyway, first off, I just want to say that as far as this series goes on the zodiac signs and how I believe they could be manipulated, it's not to give like lesson to people, or I should say lessons to people or instructions. Well, this is how you can manipulate the zodiac sign if that's what you choose to do. It's basically what it is. It's what the zodiac signs can actually look for in terms of whether they may be somebody may be attempting to manipulate them, what signs, what things they could actually look for if someone may be attempting to do this to them. So anyway, well, first thing up, Cancer sadly the zodiac sign Cancer can be manipulated, I believe, by feeding off their emotions. I mean, Cancer is one of the biggest rescuers of the zodiac. I mean, if you're in, say, if someone's in an impoverished situation, they're facing, or a lower stature in life, say, or they're facing a less fortunate situation, it could be being an impoverished scenario, it could be facing oppression, they could be hungry or homeless. That could, I mean, telling a Cancer that, and even if it's not true, that could get them to help you out. It can be something where, if you're just generally somebody's going through trials and tribulations, that could be another thing. Any kind of adversity. Cancers are often very sympathetic and nurturing, and they will help people out when experiencing problems. And sometimes, sadly, Cancer may be duped because somebody might fabricate a story that they're having such and such dilemma or problem, and Cancer just has this inclination to just rescue them. Now, the thing about it is, I mean, I have my sun in Cancer, as many of you may know, and I remember one time when I was trying to help somebody out, and sadly, I fell for something at one point, and what happened was this person pretended to be on the phone with somebody, and he needed some help or somebody, and then when I went to the phone after he got on it, I hit redial. It was like a number that was non-existent, that was not in service, so he faked a conversation and basically punked me. But the thing about it is, this is something, as far as Cancer goes, again, as a child, well, Cancer can be manipulated through basically, if you tell, one example could be if you tell the zodiac sign Cancer, someone with a Cancer sun, moon, or ascendant, given that they're often about safety and security, that you are going, we might wind up homeless, say, take a Cancer teenager, or someone that's old enough to work and they're in the home with their parents. A parent may say to them, you know what, your safety and security may be in jeopardy if you don't go out and find work and help us with the bills. Or it could be something where we may have to go into a rougher neighborhood. If you don't find some part-time job or paying your weight as far as monetary expenses go. Now, the thing about it is, and that could get Cancer to do what the person says and whether it's actually a threat or not. Now, the thing about it is, or what another thing could be is now taking something Cancerian away from a Cancer, such as something like a gardening tool, like it could be again a situation if a Cancer is teenager maybe, or staying at home with their parents. It could be something like taking away gardening or cooking tools, or something that's very nostalgic to Cancer, feels at home with. It could be like a family album, it could be some comic books, some kind of collectibles from years ago, it could be a coin collection, something that might be nostalgic that Cancer might have a sentimental tie to. And this could be something that could get Cancer to do what you want he or she to do. Now, another thing is, sadly, that the zodiac sign Cancer, as I've stated, like in my example, through my experience, sometimes Cancer, out of sympathy, compassion, they may unwittingly or inadvertently let corrupt people actually in their home, into their lives, and that they may inevitably rob them. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to go at gunpoint to the Cancer and say, stick them up, give me all your money. But it could be something like, well, they might take some of Cancer's resources one day when they're not home, and then they take off and leave, and then you never see the person again, something like that. And another thing about Cancer too, if you're trying to get Cancer upset, Cancer generally is non-confrontational. They generally will often actually, in some cases, they can also be reclusive. I mean, Cancer can be very introverted, but they're often dominated by their home and their family life, but will stay at home a lot and generally may not go outside a lot. They generally are going to avoid the harshness of the outside world. But the thing, and they're generally, again, they're generally non-combative, non-confrontational, but if you happen to threaten someone in their family, prominent family member, or they feel close to home, especially a family member, that is when you could get Cancer to a point where they could become very irascible and very angry, and it might trick them into committing a volatile action, which they could face repercussions for, of course, in jail time, as an example. Now, because remember, and also too, the zodiac sign Cancer can be about uninhibited emotional expression. Now, if you're going to get them to do, something, Cancer could be a sucker, sadly, for people showing strong emotional energy, I believe. If you're somebody's literally crying about something in front of them, it'd say, oh, I'm going to lose my home. Oh, my car's about to get repossessed. And they're going to about ready to have to relinquish something they're close to home with, or it could be an actual home. And Cancer may go for that because they are sympathetic to those kind of things, and given that there is a sign associated with the home. Now, another thing too is that Cancer, perhaps more than any of the other zodiac signs, can be exceptionally sensitive to ridicule and criticism from others. Now, the thing about it is, it's not that difficult to get Cancer to do something irrational because they don't handle criticism very well, and really, or derogatory remarks. They can be suckered this way into doing something volatile or doing something on emotion. Say if Cancer is at working at some, they're employed somewhere. Sadly, a supervisor can have an easier time getting Cancer to quit their position due to maybe constant criticism and ridicule, things that Cancer can react sensitively to. The thing about it too is another thing about Cancer, I think too, looking at it's important to look at where Scorpio falls in a natal chart or solar chart, natal or solar chart, because this could indicate that sector in life where a person may be very susceptible to being manipulated. Now, for the zodiac sign Cancer, Scorpio often falls on the 5th house cusp in a solar or natal chart. Now, sadly, Cancer can often, I think, be manipulated by lovers, and I think the reason they can have their way with Cancer, a lot of it is because, as I've stated in previous videos, and this is just my opinion, of course, I understand the zodiac sign Cancer is not ruled by Venus. But I think Cancer, sadly, they can love, and it's good in a way, they can love more so, I think unequivocally more so than the other zodiac signs on average. They put their heart and soul often into a relationship or some romantic situation, with a lover. And what happens is they can be so blinded maybe by the love they have for somebody. Maybe they just set themselves up to be manipulated. Maybe they just figure, well, this person's not going to do something like this to me. This person has to love me as much as I love him or her. So why could this actually happen for me? Or what happens is the person sees that Cancer may love him or her just so much and so unconditionally that he or she can do manipulative things to Cancer, and even if Cancer becomes cognizant of it, which could happen in certain instances, that Cancer will just let it go by the wayside and just say, oh, that's good. Well, this person loves me. I love this person. Well, big deal. It's not a big deal or whatever. So anyway, hold on a minute, people. Sorry about that. Anyway, now another thing, also too, it would be also when you look at the zodiac sign Cancer, is that given I think too what happens as far as how this can manifest too, again, Scorpio often falling on the 5th house cusp in the solar natal chart for the zodiac sign Cancer, is that they could be manipulated in matters connected with children. It could be the children may be doing that to them, thinking that maybe, well, it's my child, this child loves me so much, there's no way that this person's going to do that. Or it could simply be when when the manipulation in the children can come into play, in the sense that you could have somebody threaten Cancer and say, well, something's going to happen to your child if you don't do such and such. And what happens is, when someone does this, Cancer could really react very strongly and wind up maybe committing some kind of crime as a result, as opposed to trying to handle this situation more rationally. They're susceptible to coercion from others, threatening their harm to children and perhaps even other members of the family, which of course is more than just the 5th house. Now, another thing that's important to look at in a chart is that where Pisces falls in the solar natal chart can be another area where one could be susceptible to being manipulated, because Pisces is the sign associated with deception and duplicity, and those qualities of course can be tied into manipulation. Now, in a solar natal chart for Cancer, the zodiac sign Pisces often falls on the 9th house cusp. And the thing about this is, well, I think the way this manifests with Cancer in some cases, that, okay, the 9th house is connected with, foreign travel, could be foreigners, but with Cancer, it might just maybe be manifest more with just people that are foreign to them. Sometimes it could be literal foreigners, but what it is Cancer might be duped and manipulated by these kind of people because they are foreign to them. And Cancer is more used to what's at home with them, and they might not be able to see the signs of deception and duplicity through these people, maybe because of this. And also, remember, the 9th house rules in-laws as well. Cancer is so, dominated by family often. They often want to really strongly want to get along with their family members and want to be accepted by them, and including ones that are not biological, the in-laws. So Cancer can set themselves up for that reason, that they're willing maybe to do almost whatever for these people, for their in-laws, and they could set themselves up maybe for being delusional and really and thinking maybe, well, this person's such and such, this person can never do this to me, and then what happens is, so the opposite happens, and whatever it was they thought this person wasn't capable of doing actually may do something to them. So and remember, and 9th house is also about global communications. So because of that, this could be communications, say, with people they don't know that well on the internet, that might somehow dupe them. A thing about it is, and also the 9th house is connected with religion. Now, Cancer might be so quick to form their quote-unquote religious family by entering some congregations. They may go with virtually whatever those beliefs may be, just so they could be part of that religious family. And they might be suckered out of money. Someone may say, for example, oh, I'm getting a calling from God. He says that you're supposed to put $100 into the church. and the calling may not have come, and it's just something that, and then Cancer might just go for it, say, okay, yeah, I'll just give you $100, no problem. See, and also too, Cancer, and going back to the in-laws, they could have this trouble deciphering the character composition of in-laws because of the Pisces, again, on the 9th house cusp. Another thing too is that the thing about Cancer is they could be taken in, I think, by thieves very easily, maybe more so than the other zodiac signs on average. A lot of this has to do, I think, with the zodiac sign Gemini being on that 12th house cusp in a solar natal chart for Cancer. 12th house is associated with Pisces in astrology. The 12th house can be, I would see, about deception, duplicity, and the things you might have a little difficulty seeing and reading. And hidden adversaries, of course. What happens with Cancer is what they have a hard time seeing these thieves because they are often hidden adversaries. They could be people posing as allies, as people that are going to be beneficial to Cancer. I know, and also look at being the 12th house is associated, corresponds with the zodiac sign Pisces. The thing about this is that this could be connected with mediums, I believe, too, and psychics. And of course, with Gemini, the ones that could be thieves. I had one prominent family member one time. Apparently, she got suckered out of, I think it was like 20 grand from a fallacious medium or psychic. And the thing about it is, I think a lot of times you have corrupt people, sadly, detecting Cancer's innocence and vulnerability, and they could exploit it very easily. They could see it they could read this a mile away, and they will capitalize on it, often take advantage of it, sadly. So, and that person I told you about, the prominent family member, has 29 degrees Cancer rising on her ascendant. If I remember right, I think her 12th house cusp was like 28 degrees Gemini, so that was a very late degree in that sign. So that energy could even be stronger that I describe Gemini on the 12th house cusp. So anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment on how I believe the zodiac sign Cancer can be manipulated. Stay tuned next time where I'll be talking about how I believe Leo can be manipulated. Two things I want to get with you on before I head out. Firstly, the stars may impel but do not compel. And secondly, never isolate any single astrological element, aspect, planetary placement, position, configuration, influence, or what have you, and make an analysis of a person, astrologically speaking, based on this alone, because astrologically speaking, the person is the sum of all their components in their natal chart and not just one. Until next time, people, stay well.